Welcome to another episode of Food Trends as we explore through lifting many a cloche, various trends in the food and drink world. Boys, are you ready for some surprises?
I'm feeling trendy.
You're looking... Yes, I am, Ebbers.
Lift cloche A.
Hello.
From Ebbers' personal collection.
No, that looks like...
It looks like a torch.
It looks like a water torch.
Yeah.
It looks like one of those ones you see bobbing in the sea. It's a boy torch.
Oh, or a buoy.
Buoy.
Or a torch for a boy.
Oh.
But you have to hold it.
You have to hold it, it turns on. What, okay, whoa, what the heck is this? It says on the side of it, which makes no sense, scallop light.
That's the bit to do with food.
So it is a sea thing.
Auto immersion, so it's been in the water. The water makes the connection, therefore it's on, which is why your hand is doing similar, because your hand has got moisture, it perspires and does the water connection.
Do scallops grow towards the light?
Is it like moths in a bug's life?
Yeah, photosynthesis.
Boys, you're very close without the addition of the second cloche, which is another clue. Lift cloche B.
And you have to find them in the sand, and this helps you find... My hands are less clammy now.
Are you sure that's not a floaty device?
It is a... Wait, bang! I was right, you're right. Rope onto there, cage at the bottom.
Yeah.
Where did I leave my scallops?
Yeah.
Where did I leave my scallops? It's a fair point, but it's not a boy light. You were closer with the Bug's Life moth reference. Scallops have about 200 eyes, and they are really attracted to lights. So this is brand new technology that has been discovered to help more sustainably farm and harvest scallops.
Scallops have eyes.
Yep, and they're attracted to light. 95% of scallops in the UK are caught with dredging methods. So they drag something along the seabed and it doesn't discriminate. It scrapes up scallops, good, but also everything else, marine life and other things that is doing terrible damage to our seabeds. The alternative, which are the scallops that we use here in the studio, are always hand dived. Very expensive, you're paying for humans to dive and pick them up by hand. It can't be done in bad weather, so lots of limitations. This is potentially a brand new method that fits in between.
Very exciting.
Should we talk about it while you eat some scallops?
Yes!
What you've got in front of you is a delicious sesame yogurt with some scallops, some edamame, some pickled ingredients, and a beautiful herb oil.
Oh yeah.
I mean, first off, do you like scallops?
I think they are my favourite seafood. They're so versatile, they are incredibly satisfying, but I've always been nervous about buying them because they are quite expensive and you need to get the right ones.
So this light and the attachment that goes on the end of the cage that allows the scallops to crawl in and then not crawl out is from Scallop Light. So they're specially designed lenses in that thing you're holding, Jay, to radiate light outwards, i.e. to attract more scallops. Interestingly, this discovery happened when fisheries scientists tried experimenting with lights in crab and lobster pots to see if it would make any difference. It didn't. But when they came back to the pots, they noticed an unusual number of scallops in them. This was literally a couple of years ago. So they did a really interesting test. They took 1,886 scallop pots, 900 or so without lights, and they caught just 2 scallops. 900 or so with lights, and they caught 518 scallops. 22,000% increase.
Wow.
Are scallops deep water?
You wouldn't class it as a deep sea life. Deep sea life is like
so
the weird and wonderful creatures you never get to see.
You can dive to them.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like they're not sheltered from all light, so they're not that deep.
No.
So is the light just something completely different to them, or is it just
It's a great question. I mean, that light can operate up to 1,000 metres below sea before pressure gets to it. But actually, scallops generally grow between 5 and 200 metres below the surface. And unless they're being farmed on ropes or the equivalent, then they'll basically settle on the nearest ledge. And that might be 5 metres down, it might be 100 metres down.
Okay.
But they'll never go deeper than about 200, and that lasts up to 1,000 metres. So wherever the scallops are, if you have one of those, in theory, it will attract the scallops.
I'm stuck between two worlds. In one world, we're fishing for scallops more efficiently and effectively and environmentally friendly. But in another world, we're catching a lot more. In that Are they there to be caught already, or were we catching the right amount? Is the light a good thing and a bad thing?
I read some really, I think, interesting scientific marine biology reports on scallops and how long they take to mature and the age at which we tend to catch them and a certain size before we have to throw them back. So there are lots of controls in place. This will sit somewhere between hand-dived and the dredging is causing so much environmental damage because of the seabed that this is on the better scale, but isn't hand-dived, which costs an awful lot more and actually can't be done in certain weather conditions. So it sits in the middle and is trying to be the best of both worlds, but it's brand new and there's only a handful of fishermen in Cornwall currently using this process. That's how new it is.
To anybody out there who dies for anything fish related, invite us. I want to learn more about that world.
Given that the oceans are a huge carbon sink and take in about 25% of carbon emissions and give us about 50% of the oxygen we breathe on the planet, they're pretty important. So do we care about the health of our oceans? Yes or no?
I feel like you set us up there,
No.
Joey. I mean...
If I say no, I look like an absolute now, don't I?
So obviously, yes.
Yes, Evans.
Do we think we can all afford hand-dive scallops, that huge luxury?
No.
No.
So is there a place in the middle where, as consumers, if you see this on a menu, and you might see it written as disco scallops, which is the name they're being given.
Oh, that's clever branding.
Nice.
I
Like
like
disco
that.
skips.
Yeah.
If you see disco scallops, might be one to keep an eye out for. And definitely not aimed at the consumer, but if you want to catch your own disco scallops, £22 a light. Is this discovery lighting the way for scallops, or just a flash in the pan?
Oh, well, you shouldn't cook them for long, should you? I think that's the
No,
important. You
that
do
is
want
kicking, very
hot
rubbery
heat.
otherwise, yeah.
Edders, I think this is lighting the way. What a great invention.
Love it.
In that case, let's move on to round 2. Thank you for doing the cloche hovering. You can now lift it.
Pointless, but
Ah!
we have a sparkling and a red.
So go for the sparkling first. It's very fruity, very peachy, I would say.
Very fruity, very refreshing, very clean.
Delicious, round, sparkling
Yeah.
wine. And there's a red there as well.
Cheers.
And bearing in mind, obviously, wine isn't a trend. What is the trend you think we're looking at?
I thought the sparkling wasn't alcoholic,
I thought the same, because I wasn't getting any alcohol burn.
whereas the red is a very rich red.
The white is 11%, so the very lower end of wine ABV, whereas the red is 14.7%, so the very higher end. Lift the second cloche and see if it gives you any other clues.
Wine grapes.
There's definitely grape in it.
A complete guide to 1,368 wine varieties, including their origins and flavours. Oh, flipping heck.
An absolute compendium of a book
Oh
written
my
by
gosh.
Masters of Wine, and it is the Encyclopedia of Wine.
There's no pictures either.
There are some pictures,
Oh, good.
but not many. It's a reference book. Before I put you out of your misery, what do you think the trend might be?
Is it a guide to what? Drinking it, just understanding the berries and what each berry is doing? Berry? Grape? Berries.
Is it about using more grapes than we currently do? Like, are we monocropping grapes, essentially, and we're trying to
Right.
use more grapes, more varieties?
Excellent shout. So, the Food Standards Agency said that about 60% of UK consumers express a willingness to try new foods, and we are all getting more food curious. And in parallel to that, there are over 10,000 global grape varieties, and yet just 13 account for a
Yeah.
third of all international plantings.
Right.
So, the trend is the food curious, undiscovered and lost grape varieties.
Interesting.
Ebbers, you are a fan of wine. How many grape varieties do you think you've tried in your time?
50 to 100 maybe, I don't know, I've not kept track of individuals, possibly more, maybe as many as 150, but
he has kept
neither,
track.
but neither of these two as single varietal. So this is part of the loved and found range at Waitrose, where they're bucking the trend. If you stock a Malbec or a Shiraz or a Chardonnay or a Prosecco, you can pretty much guarantee it will fly off the shelves because people are familiar with it and they'll grab it. If you put something on there that no one has ever heard of, might not be able to even read and pronounce because it's in another language, what are the chances that people pick it up?
Gotcha.
Well, the trend is that the food curious are going, do you know what? A bit like Pokemon, I want to catch them all.
Interesting.
Yeah, lovely.
Interesting
lovely
comparison.
analogy.
Yep. Before I learned a bit more about wine, I was just picking at random, or picking the ones that kind of look familiar to me. But now I find myself trusting the selection that the supermarket or the wine distributor put on for you. I just go with their judgment and try something new every time. I think this would be for me. I don't really care about what grape it is, as long as it's delicious.
Yeah. And that's the difficult thing, is when you're looking at a label, is knowing, is that going to be delicious? Is that what I like?
Yep.
This particular range from Waitrose, so actually I met their wine buyer, Pier Paolo. He's a master of wine, and there's a few other masters of wine who all work with that supermarket and a lot of the other retailers. They all have master of wines working with them now, so you can put the trust in supermarket wines. And what they said was that so many of these grape types in their range are often lost in blends. They're kind of blended into stuff and you wouldn't know their name, or they're kind of indigenous and don't have a place. However, Chardonnay sales are down 163% on recent years, so say Laithwaite's. It had its peak in 2002 or 3, Footballers' Wives, Chardonnay the character, people calling their kids Chardonnay.
Yeah.
It was big.
Less trendy.
It's less trendy now. New varieties are coming into play, especially ones we haven't even heard of. Vitesca Alba, so it is Moldovan. It literally means white maiden. And they say, you pretty much nailed it, ripe pear, maybe some stone fruit, ginger spice, a wisp of fresh herb on the finish. But sparkling wine and only £9 a bottle.
Wow, £9 a bottle.
£9 a bottle.
And the second...
That's when we listen. That's when we pick up
Now
on.
you're in.
£9?
Sounds
Brilliant.
great.
£9?
So yeah, it's very, very within reach and affordable, which I guess is the scale of the retailers able to do that. The second one is Mataro, which is might otherwise be called Mourvedre. You may have heard that from south of France, but this is grown in Australia. It was literally uprooted in the 1980s as part of a government scheme because they wanted to grow more Shiraz. And actually only recently it's been finding its feet again because they found a few that hadn't been uprooted. So it was almost lost to the archives, and now it's making a comeback, and you'll get all the fruit you mentioned, plus some Chinese 5-spice, pepper and violet.
I would struggle to spend more than £10 on a bottle of wine if I don't know that I'm going to like it.
Yeah, no, true.
And so to try something new, it needs to be accessible
Yep.
to more of a mainstream wine drinker or drinking community.
And that's the trend we're seeing. People are more and more food curious. You go to food markets in London and around the UK, and you're getting more and more curiosity about food cuisines from around the world. Often cuisines you know very little about, but you get a chance in a small plate just to try one portion for 8 to 12 quid.
But it's the whole pomposity around wine, is that sometimes you don't know what grapes you're drinking because you're drinking a wine that is called the name of the region or a brand, and sometimes it is the grape, and it's just like, well, unless you're going to get into it, no one really understands what's going on. I don't know how many grape types I've drunk in wine over the last few years because I think it is really hard to track. So finding ways to do it in an easier way is going to help it become more accessible.
We sit in very unusual positions because we play a lot of these games on the channel, but do you think you are very comfortable in what you know about food and drink, or are you always on the lookout for something new?
One thing that's proven on this show over and over again is that we know nothing, and at times are always changing, and you have to keep moving with it.
We know more than a lot of people, but relative to how much there is to know, it's nothing. So always finding new stuff.
In which case, the final question, are you going to pop a cork on something new, or are you fine the way you are?
Keep them popping.
Evans, because you are so nicely, I will pop your cork.
Excellent. In which case, round 3. Number 3, Lift Cloche A.
Some kind of meat, but it's sweet.
It looks like a fake meat. It looks like a dried fruit. You know what I mean?
It's got like pulled meat, kind of.
No, not meat.
Oh, that's not meat.
That is like meat. You know what that tastes like? Half meat, half Christmas pudding.
Ooh, it has got that jellied aspect to it. But yeah,
kind of like dried fruit.
I mean, we have tossed it in a barbecue sauce, which does have spice and smoke and fruit. Any idea what it is?
It feels like a meat replacement, but still a natural product, if that makes sense. It's not lab-grown meat or something like that.
A bit like jackfruit.
Yeah.
Lift Cloche B.
Mushrooms. Doesn't taste like a mushroom.
Shiitake mushrooms at that, and specifically the stalks. Right, boys, we've crafted you some simple tacos. But first off, a stat. The European Union have said that the volume in the meat substitution segment of the market is forecast to continue increasing between 2025 and 2030 by another 41% after the 10th consecutive increasing year. So it continues to move up. This is not an alternative protein. This is a meat alternative because the protein content of mushrooms is about 2% compared to that of beef or chicken or pork or what it is replacing.
Gotcha. I've definitely said in the past that I can easily substitute meat with mushrooms. I adore them. Funny how that one didn't appeal to me on the first bite.
This is a product called Fable, which you can buy. It is the shiitake mushroom stalk as a meat alternative, and then you can flavour it how you like. It's used a lot in industry. Wagamama's, Rosa's Thai, some of their vegan vegetarian options on the menu use this product, but it is also available from places like Holland and Barrett.
Cheers. You just smashed my taco. In that setup, it works because there's so much other stuff going on. There's so many other
Distractions.
textures, flavours, distractions that you're not just tasting the mushroom.
No, it's doing a job. I'm intrigued by it being the shiitake stalk specifically. Why?
Have you ever seen shiitake mushrooms grow? So shiitake, literally the shi, S-H-I-I, is the type of tree, and take is mushroom. So shiitake is literally tree mushroom, and they grow from trees. The stalks are really quite long. However, when they're harvested, they don't want to give the consumer the really long stalk, because actually the texture is quite chewy and fibrous. So they snip it off and you buy shiitake mushrooms like that. There's a huge amount of bio-waste from anyone who is farming shiitake mushrooms, and they've got nothing to do with that long stalk. This company, Fable, take that shiitake mushroom stalk, which is otherwise agricultural waste, and turn it into a product, and even people like Heston use in his restaurants.
Now, whenever we have conversations like this, the comments always pipe up and say there isn't much waste in the food manufacturing industry. Everything goes somewhere at some point. Turning it into more consumer-facing items does have, I think, probably more profit attached to it and brand building and all of that kind of thing.
Fable say that you can put it into burgers, wraps, salads, stir fries, stews, curries, and more. Great in dumplings, you can flavour them any which way. It was at the IFE that I went to looking at other food trends in the area, and the guy on the Fable stand waved me over and said, been a fan of the channel for years and years and years, have you ever heard about this? He pointed out, GMO-free, preservative-free, it's also 1,000 times less land per calorie than beef, and is 100% carbon neutral.
How process heavy is it? Because that's one of the things we've seen with, yes, it's a meat alternative and you're not doing the meat side of things, but is it so ultra processed that you're creating a load of other potential problems over here instead?
You're very right. Compared to shiitake mushroom stalks, or the mushrooms as they are more processed, but free of GMO preservatives, artificial ingredients, and minimally so because the mushroom is already dense, fleshy fibres, and has the umami flavour, the glutamates that we love in food. So yes, it's a processed food. An ultra processed food, not something you could do at home, but it is used in the agricultural by-waste, and it's not adding in extra preservatives or artificial ingredients.
Again, I love that texture. For me, it won't replace a meat that I already love in this setting, but it's a good alternative.
It falls into the meat alternative bracket, but when I was speaking to them, they were like, we want this to be a mushroom product, not a meat alternative product.
Yeah,
and it uses the byproduct of waste. Interestingly, fun stat, this meat alternative is more closely related to an animal than it is a plant. So the co-founder, Michael Fox, said in an interview with Total Food, on the evolutionary tree, fungi are more closely related to animals than they are to plants.
Because fungi are a type of bacteria, not a type. Yeah.
Yeah, their own little bracket.
Yeah.
Animal, mineral, vegetable, none. Price-wise, a 250 gram pack, a Holland & Barrett comes in at £4.79. So it's also at the moment kind of on par with the price of a good steak, I guess. Which leaves just one question. Is this just another folklore and fable? Or will this make you the fun guy at your next taco party?
I like and don't love them.
I like the story.
Yeah.
I like the story.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% convinced by that just
Yes.
yet.
Fair enough. One more for you. Lift away on A.
More drinks.
A carbonated
Oh,
beverage.
it says a frothy beverage.
It's got fizz. It's got a sourness to it.
So one of my favourite drinks at the moment is I've got aloe vera juice. The little globules in it.
Yeah.
It's just, I love it
Yeah.
so much. It's the wettest thing ever.
Yeah.
This has got that same refreshing vibe to it.
Yeah, like coconut water being
Yeah.
more refreshing than water.
Yeah. Because of its viscosity, it fills more of your mouth than water that would just disappear. It's almost got a grapey, a bit like the first bit around earlier. It's quite grapey.
Any other flavour notes?
It's like almost like a curd, an apple curd, like a apple pie. Apple pie.
Apple could be interesting.
They say notes
Apple.
of pear, lychee, citrus, but most importantly, tropical.
Oh, I wouldn't say tropical.
And that's because this grows within 20 degrees of the equator in the tropical belt. Lift cloche B.
It's delicious though. I love that.
Cocoa.
Chocolate.
The cacao fruit.
I've had chocolate before. This tastes nothing like it.
That, Barry, is
not
because 70% of the cacao fruit is discarded after cocoa bean production.
Yeah.
Because it's just the beans we use. The white, fleshy fruit around the outside, which is very tropical, but not necessarily chocolatey, is often wasted. Now, sometimes it is left on the bean to ferment and to give the chocolate some of its characters and notes, but more often than not, it's just lost. So this drink, Calba, upcycles this superfruit in situ to trap in its goodness, and then they just combine literally two ingredients: cold pressed cacao fruit juice and sparkling water. That's it.
They've got a really tough job here. Because I picked that up and I think that looks like a kombucha can.
Yes. Yeah.
But you read it and you go, cacao fruit? You just assume it to be chocolatey.
Deliciously tropical, but it's not chocolatey. You mentioned coconut water a little while ago, and in a similar way, this has all that natural kind of flavonoids, supporting heart health, wellness. It's considered a superfruit in the terms of its number of micronutrients in it as a fruit per 100 grams means it is very good for you, but only if it can be preserved. And we deliberately got that cocoa pod sent over, and already when we cut into it, that's been on a ship for an awful long time. It's not at its best. The beans will be absolutely fine, but the fruit inside is not preserved as well as if it's processed, cold pressed in place of origin and canned.
I really like it. And it's something that's completely new.
It reminds me a little bit of a sour, where it has that egg white kind of thickness to it.
Yeah.
And that's because it's literally just cold pressed. So they take all of that pulp, cold press it, and then mix it in with sparkling water. They have lots of recipes for cocktails on their website, but importantly, ethically sourced by working directly with the cacao farmers, which actually gives them a whole nother revenue stream. So they will get X for their cocoa beans on the market at the price of cocoa beans, and if they're lucky, the fair trade price, and if they're lucky, an even better price when they're working directly with chocolatiers who care. But 70% of the fruit often goes to waste. And now, with this company, they will get revenues for the bit that normally just rots. And the company founder, Matthew Halford, says that it's pretty much 100% sustainable because it's all waste material, and they're the first company using cacao fruit at this scale in the UK because it's only recently been allowed. Because up until then, it wasn't considered food, so they couldn't control it.
Interesting.
That's incredible.
So not unlike the shiitake mushroom stalks, it is upcycling agricultural waste. A lot of resource and input goes into growing the fruit in the first place. It's a shame to throw away 70%. The cocoa bean industry creates 10 million metric tons of waste a year, just so we can have the beans turned into chocolate.
Because it's brand new as a category, and as a product, how do you educate and explain to people what it is, why it's good? How do you get them to taste like? That's going to need so much investment to get it off the ground and to get it into any kind of mainstream thinking.
Price-wise, Currently available from them at £30 for 12 cans. So actually on par with most high-end kombuchas and sparkling drinks.
Yep.
So the question,
Ooh.
a sparkling new idea
Ooh.
or a bio waste of time?
I think it's a sparkling new idea. I'd love to see it take off. Really would.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see where it's going to go. Definitely, sparkling.
Excellent. Comment down below, of those 4 food trends, which would you most like to try? And if you see other things out and about in the world of food and drink that we should be covering, we want to hear from you. Comment down below.